Alright guys, this is a video of me completely assembling this engine. Some of y'all want to see this. It's a 49cc steel sleeve cylinder. I'll go over some of the things I did. Now this right here is just a piston stop where I can see everything. One of the things I think would probably be the main thing is right here at the top of this piston. I took 15 thousandths off of this because that expands the most. We've learned that in the past. This is part one. Part two will be me doing a full porting job on this, thanks to the help of the community on YouTube with these bikes for information on how to do it. And that's gonna be part two. Part one is a complete assembly of it. So if you see something I did wrong, comment. If you see something I did right, comment. If you see something you didn't like or anything like that, comment. It doesn't matter. And I hope you enjoy the video. So let's get to it.
Looking at what we have to work with. What we're looking for is the bonding between the steel sleeve and the aluminum pour. And that looks pretty good right there. That's at the bottom of one of the transfer ports. This is at the bottom of the other transfer port. You can see where the aluminum is bonded good to the steel, even up and down on the sides. Looks pretty good, not too bad. Then we'll be looking at the intake port. We have steel sleeve sticking into the port. It's excess material that'll have to be taken out on the exhaust port as well. Looking at the transfer ports from the inside and looking toward the actual top of the transfer port, there'll be some excess to be taken off of there. But we are going to wait until the initial port timing starts before we start pulling anything off of that, because there might be very little we pull off, or it might be a whole bunch. There's no sense of messing with it now. We'll have to take the excess out of the exhaust and intake ports. That'll be done before porting. But other than that, that's it. And it doesn't look that bad. Got a little something to work with there. There's two divots at the bottom of the transfer ports, or actually the top of the button right there. I believe that's part of the clamping process whenever they deck it and what have you. So because you got one on the other side, that's pretty much identical to the same spot. So that's what we got to work with. So we have to get busy with it. This is a steel sleeve cylinder, and there's always a lot of excess material that goes over the ports. This is not porting. This is just removal of the excess material on the intake and the exhaust. The transfers are not going to be touched until it gets time to do the porting. This is just removing the excess material from the sleeve itself around the exhaust and the intake. Balancing the crankshaft. Get a magic marker and mark it really good right between the two holes. Then for the next step, you'll need a metal caliper. You will measure the distance or the thickness of the area right there, and then subtract it by half. Lock the caliper down, and then holding one edge on one side and then holding one edge on the other, scribe very good so you can see it. Now, measure the thickness of the inside of the two holes. Deduct by half. Lock the caliper down. And then scribing, holding the edge in the hole on one side, scribe, and holding the edge on the other side, scribe. If you don't have it exactly perfect, that's fine. You'll see the little hole or void where no lines intersect, the 4 lines don't intersect. That's your dead center. There you go. Then center punch. I take a drill, a hand drill, with a smaller size bit, and then I mark the hole really good where I center punched it with the end of the bit. By doing this, I leave a nice good starting point, and I can adjust the mark from there. And getting ready for drilling, I always tape everything up all the way around, all the holes, everything, to try to keep as many chips as I possibly can from getting in it, and in the bearings in there. And even after doing this, I also, when I get done drilling it, I do wash it really, really good. That's a custom-made sleeve I got on that 1/2-inch drill bit. We are doing 15 millimeters, and that's pretty much a standard on most all motors. This one probably could have took a little bit more off of it because it's a 49 millimeter piston, but it'll be close enough. So, and like I said, after you get it drilled, then pull all the tape off and wash it really, really good. I use Super Clean, and then Lucas assembly lube, and it's good to go. And just like the tires on your car, you have to get these holes exactly perfect as you can, because they're just like weights you're taking off or weights you're adding on. Case matching. This is when we will match up the transfer ports from the case into the cylinder. Now, in the case of this particular set of cases, I've already done it with the previous jug, so I'm going to run into a little bit of trouble. Not really, but as you'll see, what you'll do is you will mark it good with a felt tip pin like I did. I have a needle on the end of a piece of brass. You can take anything sharp to mark it. And you're going to see any overhang or anything that might be there on the cylinder or the case hanging into the transfer port areas. And you want to smooth that out as much as possible. Make it as laminous as possible.
and you want to smooth that flow out as much as possible. Well, you can see right here, if I was to cut that out, no, I wouldn't have enough gasket area there for the new jug. And that was from cutting it from the previous cylinder. This is important to smooth up the charge, your air-fuel mixture into the transfers to keep everything moving good. So like I said, take a felt tip. We will mark the other side, we'll do the same thing, and we will check if we've got any obstructions in there. And I saw one little tiny one down there, and we're going to take the needle, and this is one of the benefits of having a needle. And you can do a nice good mark on the place where you magic mark, and as you'll see, it's a little tiny spot, really not worth messing with. And there you go. Installing the bearings. You can use a press or you can heat them up. I choose to heat them up. I'm pulling all the seals out, front and back. I don't leave any seals in them. I want the oil to migrate through the bearings and around the bearings, not be captured on one side. I'm heating them up around 225, 250, and then I tap them in with a block of wood. You can take a press. A toaster oven at about 225 to 250 works really well also. I'm using a torch, which it works well too. And then again, they can be cold pressed in, but I don't want to damage the cases by doing that. Bolting the cases up and torquing. You notice that I have the cylinder in the head bolted on. I do that before I get the case bolts tight. What that does is it levels the two sides, the right and left side of the case. It levels them up so there is no gap or anything. You should always tighten the head up. I just tighten two bolts that are across from one another on an angle. And then what I do is I take each individual bolt out, put Loctite on it, and then I'll torque it down to 50 inch-pounds. Once I get all the bolts done, then I'll go to 70 inch-pounds and go all the way around in a crosshatch pattern. And then I go to 120 inch-pounds, and that is 10 foot-pounds. And you have to be careful with this range because a bolt might strip out, but that's tightening the cases. installing the seals. I do this after everything's put together. It'd be one of the last things I do after the cases are done. I use a little bit of 3M weather strip adhesive around them. I clean the area good, and I just slide them in by hand, making sure that the lip of the seal is not pinched, especially on the magnet side or the magneto side, because it doesn't have a bevel to go on. And that's pretty much the last thing I do before the piston. I only use Wiseco 10mm wrist pin clips, and this is me putting them in and putting the piston on. You will take a screwdriver that I coat mine in shrink tube so I don't scratch anything, and I push it in there, and there's another video back when I did this, and I did it a lot better, but this is just a video to show you how I build my motors, and this is how I do it. You will get a 7/16 K&S brass tubing, and you will bevel the end of it, and I will show you, and I'm putting the wrist pin clip in there right now. And I'm going to push it down, and I'm going to push it down all the way until it's just about to come out on a flat surface. And then I put 2 wrist pins in there, old ones, smack it one time, and there you go. It's in there, and it's not coming out. So this is the end of this video. This is part 1. Part 2 will be porting and port timing this engine. So please hit like and subscribe, leave me a comment, and let me know what you think.